All right, so new hire. This is a thing we usually recommend for most customers is to document their new hire processes. So that way, if you have a new hire process within your your Active Directory, your email system, and your ShoreTel system, you have a nice document that any of your IT staff employees can use to create a new hire inside your ShoreTel phone system. So the first thing we want to do is obviously log in a director, go to our users, individual users, and on the very top, we want to select in the drop-down what site we want to add them to. So most of you might think that this might be a little bit different. Is a lot of customers will go in and they'll select an existing user and hit the copy button. And for years, that was our best practices, is to use the copy feature, because you get to copy the user group the person's assigned to, what their license is. The disadvantage of that we found, since ShoreTel's been adding more and more features, is it copies the system directory entry. So if I've went into my user account and I've put in my cell phone number as a system directory entry, and then I copy my user account into a new user, when Travis goes in and types in that person's name, they're going to get their extension number, but they're also going to get my cell phone number listed in the directory. So we've put in some requests to ShoreTel to figure out why they're copying directory entries, and they said it is something they're looking at. So as of right now, that's one of the big things. And also external assignments. So if I have like my cell phone number built in there to forward my calls to, it'll copy that setup also. So if I'm forwarding calls out to my cell phone and you copy my user, that user, when you call the phone number, is going to ring out to my cell phone number again. And then you're like, well, I wasn't trying to get a hold of Chris. So that's the reason that we recommend just building a new user from scratch. It's a pretty simple process to build a new user. But go ahead and build one from scratch so that you're not copying any of those directory entries or cell phone numbers in the database and creating a little bit more work for you to clean up down the road. So we're ready to build a new, so we got rid of the user who left in the system. We're ready to build that replacement. So we start with a fresh entry. Here, on the very top, we have the Active Directory user. So if you're using the Active Directory integration, I'm not a huge fan of ShoreTel's Active Directory integration. It does seem to work. It's a one-to-one integration. So what I would do there is I would put in a domain name and a username, and I'd hit sync, and it would pull that information from Active Directory and populate my first name, my last name, my email address, my user ID, and my communicator password. And then any phone numbers that we have in AD is what it's going to populate. I would still have some fields to populate in here, but it doesn't do any permanent syncing. So if you go in and add some additional information, like maybe a cell phone number in AD, or it's a female who gets married and you change her last name, you have to manually go in here and hit the sync from AD button again to pull any of those changes in. So it's not a great solution yet. ShoreTel is making some big changes coming down the road for their Active Directory to give it more of an actual integration instead of just like a one-way read, a manual read every time. So we're building a user. Obviously, we need to give it a first name and a last name. And then we want to take that extension number. If we're replacing that employee, we put that extension number in here where it says number. And then we have our license type. So in license type, do we want this person to have a mailbox or just an extension? So if we just need an extension, we can, in the drop-down, select extension only. Most of your regular employees are going to be extension and mailbox, so we just accept that. Your access license, 90% of your access license are going to be personal. That's just your regular communicator license. You have the different license options you have is you have operator for your, for a few operators that you have. You have your work group agent and work group supervisor for people who need to log in and out of small ACD call queues in the ShoreTel system. You also have professional. Professional license is users who you want to be able to do custom call routing. So the professional feature gives you a professional access license, but it gives you the capability to do personalized call handling rules. So I could build a rule that says when this employee's cell phone number calls me, even if I'm in out of office mode, go ahead and ring it in. Or if this phone number calls, always send it to voicemail, because it's just a spam number, and they're calling me over and over for no reason. So anytime this number calls, send it to voicemail because I don't want to talk to that person. I try to tell them to take me off the dialing list. So that's probably the biggest reason that people use professional license. Then you have your caller ID. You don't have to fill in your caller ID. By default, caller ID will fill in with your DID if you have it, or if you don't have a DID assigned to this user, it'll fill in with the main number for the location that they're at. One note on caller ID can be an 800 number also, as long as your telephone carrier supports you passing out 800 numbers. In the real estate market, a lot of them, they want their cell phone number to be the caller ID, so that way when they call out from their desk and people would then call back to their cell phone, which they have with them all the time. So caller ID is customizable on a per user basis. Then we assign the DID. We pick the DID that we took off the previous employee that we deleted. So in our case, the last 4 of the DID matches the extension, which is pretty much the industry standard now. If you're doing 4-digit extensions and you have enough DIDs and stuff to accommodate it, a lot of our customers do have the last 4 of the DIDs matching the extension matching the DID. The last major thing you want to do on this that you can see on this screen is the user group. So I skipped over PST and failover. PST and failover is a setting where you can, if you lose access between locations, so like if our MPLS goes down between Seattle and Portland and I dial the new hire extension number, the system can say, oh, well, I can't reach them across the MPLS. Let me just go ahead and grab my dial tone and place a call to that person's DID. And you can have the system auto dial the DID when the MPLS is down. So that's what a PST and failover is. Some of our customers use it, and and some of them, it's not that big a deal because their MPLS, if it is down, it's down for a short period of time. It's back up, and they don't necessarily have the dial tone space to keep dialing around for every extension call between sites. So last one on this screen, you have your user group. User group is important because user group is how ShoreTel does all the permissions. So if you are looking for a way to restrict international dialing or long distance dialing or number of voicemails a person can store, or how long they should be able to store their voicemails. Should they only be able to store their voicemails for 90 days or 120 days? You can do all of that in user group permissions. So there's a lot of capabilities inside of user groups to restrict the number of people on a conference call that a user can do, or should they be able to use overhead paging systems. So if you're looking to do any kind of restrictions on a group of phones, user group is where you're going to do it. And feel free to reach out to our support team for any help you need on customizing a user group or building a special user group. The couple other things you need to assign when you build a user is, I didn't screenshot the bottom of the page, I probably should have, but as you scroll down, you can set the user's email address so that they can get email notifications. By default, their voicemail password is 1234, and their communicator password is change me. Those could be changed. Most customers leave them because the first time a new employee sets up their mailbox, they're going to get asked for a new password. And sets up their communicator, they're going to get asked for a new communicator, so it won't stay as change me. So those things I usually recommend just leaving as default because it's going to have the new employee change those to permanent passwords that is more relevant or works for them better. The other couple things you can do when you build a user is you can select what voicemail server to put their voicemail box on. If you have multiple servers, you can locate their mailbox on a server closer to them with a drop-down for voicemail server. And you can also assign an IP phone. If you already know the MAC address of the phone that they're going to be using, you can assign it to the new employee when you start. The next thing I'm actually going to be covering is extension assignment, so you can walk up to a phone and assign an extension. And that's how we're doing our new deployments with the new 400 series phones is we build all the users and then we deploy the phones and we walk up to each phone and we just log in that user into that phone, and that becomes their phone if nobody was logged into that phone to start with. So a couple things you could do to kind of minimize, if you happen to know the MAC address, go ahead and assign it to the user so that way when that employee starts on Monday or whenever they're starting, their name's already displayed on the phone. But a lot of times the IT team doesn't know what the MAC address is of that phone. So you can do it multiple ways as far as assigning IP phones.